Hello, little dreamers, and welcome to Dreamland Tales. Tonight we embark on a journey into a world where snowflakes dance in the moonlight, and where the heart of a young princess holds the magic of kindness. Settle deep into your pillows, close your eyes, and allow the gentle currents of story to carry you away to the timeless tale of Snow White. In a kingdom where winter painted the landscape with hues of silver and white, there lived a queen, beloved by all. Her heart was as pure as the freshly fallen snow, and her laughter echoed like the tinkling of crystal bells. One crisp winter morning, as she sat by her window, sewing a gown of shimmering silk, her finger was pricked by the sharp needle. 3 drops of ruby-red blood fell upon the pristine snow outside. The queen gazed at the vivid contrast, the crimson against the white, and a gentle wish blossomed in her heart. She wished for a daughter with skin as white as the snow, lips as red as the blood, and hair as black as the ebony frame of her window. And so, as if by magic, her wish was granted. A beautiful baby girl was born, with skin as pale as moonlight, lips like ripe cherries, and hair as dark as the night sky. They named her Snow White, a name that whispered of winter's beauty. But alas, the queen's delicate health faltered, and she drifted away like a snowflake on a gentle breeze, leaving Snow White and her grieving father, the king, alone. Time passed, and the king, seeking comfort and companionship, remarried. His new queen was a woman of striking beauty, but her heart was cold and hard, like a frozen winter pond. She possessed a magic mirror, a shimmering surface that reflected not just images, but truths. Every morning she would stand before it, her eyes glittering with vanity, and ask, "Mirror, mirror, on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror would reply, its voice deep and echoing, as if from a distant cavern, "Thou, O Queen, art fairest of them all." And the queen would smile, a thin, satisfied smile, her vanity momentarily appeased. But as Snow White grew, her beauty blossomed like a spring flower pushing through the snow. Her laughter was like the song of a woodland stream, and her kindness shone like a beacon in the darkness. One day, when the queen asked her mirror the familiar question, the mirror's answer chilled her to the bone. "Thou, O queen, art fair, 'tis true, but Snow White is fairer than you." A wave of jealousy, dark and bitter, washed over the queen. She summoned her huntsman, a man with a loyal heart but a weak will, and commanded him to take Snow White into the deepest, darkest part of the forest. "Leave her there," she hissed, "and bring me her heart as proof of your deed." The huntsman, his heart heavy with dread, led Snow White into the labyrinth of towering trees and whispering shadows. Snow White, sensing his unease, looked at him with her trusting eyes, and the huntsman's resolve crumbled. He could not bring himself to harm such an innocent soul. "Run, child," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "Run far away and never return." He then took the heart of a young deer, a creature of the forest, and presented it to the queen, deceiving her cruel heart. Snow White, lost and alone, wandered through the dense forest, her tears falling like raindrops on the mossy ground. The trees seemed to loom over her, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. The shadows danced and swayed, playing tricks on her eyes. But as twilight deepened, she spotted a faint light flickering through the trees. She followed the light, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and hope, until she reached a small, quaint cottage nestled among the pines. She knocked gently on the door, but no one answered. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. The cottage was small but cozy, filled with a sense of warmth and comfort. 7 tiny beds lined one wall, and a table was set with 7 tiny plates. Cups, and spoons. Snow White, exhausted and hungry, ate a small portion from each plate and drank a sip from each cup. Then lay down on one of the tiny beds and drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep. As darkness fell, the 7 dwarfs, their faces dusted with the gold and silver of the mines, returned to their cottage. They were startled to find Snow White sleeping peacefully in one of their beds. They gazed at her beauty, her face as serene as a sleeping angel, and their hearts were filled with compassion. They decided to let her stay, offering her shelter and protection. Snow White became their housekeeper, filling their home with the aroma of freshly baked bread and the sound of cheerful songs. She swept and cleaned, cooked and sewed, and the dwarfs, in return, brought her gifts of wildflowers and sparkling stones from the mines. They warned her never to open the door to strangers, for the queen's malice was boundless. But the queen, her vanity still gnawing at her heart, learned from her mirror that Snow White was still alive, disguised as a peddler woman, then a comb seller, and finally as an old woman with a poisoned apple. She tried to bring Snow White back to her castle to lock her up. Each time, the dwarfs managed to keep her safe, but with the poisoned apple, she fell into a deep sleep, a sleep so deep that even the dwarfs could not awaken her. They placed her in a glass bed, adorned with flowers, and kept watch over her, their hearts heavy with grief. One day, a prince, riding through the forest, saw the bed and was struck by Snow White's ethereal beauty. He asked the dwarfs if he could take her to his castle, and they reluctantly agreed. As the prince's servants carried the bed, they stumbled, and the piece of poisoned apple dislodged from Snow White's throat. She awoke, her eyes fluttering open, and smiled at the prince, her rescuer. The prince, overjoyed, took her to his castle, where they were married in a grand celebration. The wicked queen, consumed by envy, met her just end, and Snow White and the prince lived happily ever after, their kingdom filled with love, kindness, and the gentle magic of a true heart. The prince, overjoyed to find his beloved Snow White alive and well, wasted no time in arranging a grand celebration. Messengers were dispatched throughout the land, carrying invitations to a magnificent wedding. The castle was adorned with garlands of fragrant flowers, shimmering ribbons, and twinkling lights. Guests arrived from far and wide, their faces beaming with joy for the happy couple. Snow White, radiant in a gown of spun moonlight and shimmering pearls, and the prince, handsome and noble, exchanged vows in a ceremony filled with love and laughter. The wedding feast was a marvel to behold. Tables overflowed with delicious treats, from roasted meats and sugared plums to delicate pastries and sparkling cider. Musicians played lively tunes, and guests danced until the stars twinkled brightly in the night sky. But amidst the merriment, a dark shadow loomed. The wicked queen, consumed by envy and rage, had disguised herself and slipped into the castle, determined to witness Snow White's happiness and perhaps find a way to destroy it. As Snow White and the prince danced, their eyes locked in a gaze of pure love, the queen seethed with jealousy. She could not bear to see her rival so happy, so adored. Her heart, already hardened by years of vanity and cruelty, grew colder still. She plotted and schemed, searching for a way to unleash her vengeance. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. As the queen crept through the castle, her dark thoughts swirling around her like a storm, she stumbled upon a hidden chamber. Inside, she discovered a pair of iron shoes. These were no ordinary shoes. They had been enchanted to deliver a fitting punishment to those who harbored evil intentions. The queen, blinded by her rage, slipped the shoes onto her feet. Immediately, the enchanted shoes sprang to life. They clamped tightly around the queen's feet and began to dance, a wild, uncontrollable dance that carried her through the castle, past the startled guests, and out into the courtyard. The shoes danced on, faster and faster, until the queen, exhausted and defeated, collapsed. The magic of the shoes, fueled by her own wickedness, had turned against her. News of the queen's fate spread quickly through the castle. The guests, initially shocked, soon realized that justice had been served. The celebration continued, now with an even greater sense of joy and relief. Snow White and the prince, unaware of the queen's demise, continued to dance, their love shining brighter than ever. And as the years passed, their kingdom flourished, filled with peace, prosperity, and the enduring magic of a true and loving heart. And so, little dreamers, the tale of Snow White reminds us that true beauty shines from within, that kindness is a treasure beyond measure, and that even in the darkest of times, hope and love will always prevail. My dear little dreamers, as the night sky wraps around you like a warm hug, close your eyes and drift off into a peaceful sleep. May your dreams be filled with magic, kindness, and adventures of your own. Good night, sleep well, and I'll see you again soon for another Dreamland tale.